Good morning. I'm Paula from Happy Yoga Wales, and today's practice is going to focus on the whole of the back body. So we're going to stretch, strengthen, mobilize, and get into the fascia, which is this connective tissue that surrounds everything, every organ, every muscle. So let's get started. So for today, we'll have our knees in line with the hips, and tuck the toes under and spread the toes nice and wide, so you've got contact with the mat with every toe. These aren't toes, these are fingers. And then just sinking the hips back and start to lower the head towards the floor. If that's not comfortable, you can place a block underneath the hips just to raise your hips up a little bit, so you're kind of sitting on the block almost. You can roll a blanket, I haven't got one handy, and put it behind your knees, so in between the calves and the thighs. And we're just going to be here for a few breaths, so just settle in. If this is really uncomfortable with the toes tucked, then you can release them a little bit so they don't have to be super tucked under so that you're in pain. So remember, there's never any pain in yoga. Or if you really don't like it, you can bring the tops of the feet down to the mat. So just go with what feels right for you. I'm just about to connect with your breath here. So breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And we'll be working with our breath right the way through class. But if at any time my cues, my breathing don't match yours, then you just go with your own breath. So don't ever try to control the breath or force the breath or change the breath to suit what I'm saying. Just connect with your own breath and work with it. So just here, 2 more breaths. So starting to open up through the soles of the feet. Should feel nice in this area. And then on your next in-breath, just walk the hands over to a diagonal and keep the hips pressing back. So if you're walking to the right, with the hands press the hips back to the left. So you've got this nice diagonal line. And then back through centre, can move to the other side. Reach through the fingertips, feel that nice stretch along one side of the torso. You might straight away notice one side is tighter than the other. I can. And then come on back to centre. And then just release the hips briefly. Come up to through tabletop, come all the way forward, and just let the hips sink down, keeping the toes tucked, and then press back. So just moving through this really gentle kind of child's pose into a little bit of a cobra position. Just releasing the hips. Starting to warm up the spine and the shoulders. So fascia, this web-like substance that surrounds all our muscles and our bones, it starts in the feet. And there's quite a few different patterns of it, I suppose. They go in different directions up the body. So some spiral up the body, some go up the back, some go up the front, but they all start at the feet. So it's really, really useful to open up the feet, to massage the feet, to stretch the base of the feet. And you might find that just by doing that, releases tension in other areas of the body. So it might, massaging your feet might suddenly cure your neck pain that you've been having for months. Okay, so come back to your child's pose. This time, take the knees to a normal position, bring the tops of the feet onto the mat. So knees just a little bit wider than your hips. So you can really sink the torso down in between the knees. And find length here, so reach through the fingertips, press back through the hips. And just bring your attention to your ankles. So just notice whether your feet and your ankles are in a straight line, or are they, or your ankles, your heels turning out to the side. If they're falling out to the side, just draw them in slightly towards each other, so that your feet are in a straight line with your shins. That makes sense. And then keeping one arm extended, slide the other underneath like you're threading a needle, and place the back of the hand on the mat so that your palm is facing up, and look towards that hand that you've thread through. So nice stretch through the back of the shoulder, back up the upper back. Keep pressing the hips back. Inhale, extend. And then same thing other side. Thread that arm through, palm faces up to the ceiling. Just let the head be heavy, no tension in the neck. Again, notice the difference from one side to the other. Oh, I could stay on this side all day, that feels good. But we've got other things to do. So come, let's extend, bring both arms forward. And then come all the way up this time to all fours. So bring the knees underneath the hips and the hands underneath the shoulders. We're going to take some cat-cow movements here. So inhaling, drop the belly, lifting the tailbone, drop the chest, and then start to extend through, maybe lifting the chin. And then exhaling, drawing the tailbone down, lifting the belly button in, squeezing the glutes a little bit here too, pressing the upper back away from the mat. So really press through the mat with the hands here and drawing the chin to the chest. And again, so inhaling, remember moving with your own breath here. So you might take 2 or 3 breaths in each movement to start with, that's fine. And then exhaling, squeezing the glutes and rounding. So anytime you want to take an extra breath, that's fine. Maybe you find a little sticky spot that feels good and you want to stay there a little bit longer and have a little wiggle. And gently shaking out the head in our cat pose, nodding it, yes. And gently shaking it no if that feels good, but really, really gentle with the neck. Letting the weight of the head traction the spine. And then come on back to centre. From here, just take a little bump of the hips. So just take your hips to one side and then look towards them. So you're making like a little banana shape in the spine here. So it's really subtle, but it should be a nice stretch to the side of the body. And then bump the hips the other direction, so bumping to the right and looking to the right. And then come on back to centre. We're going to thread the needle again, but from this position here. So make sure the shoulders are away from the ears, not hunching up. And start to take one arm up towards the sky or the ceiling and reach through those fingertips. Exhale and thread through. And we're going to bring some movement in, so we can do that again. Inhale, extend, getting a twist through the spine. Exhale, thread. Keeping the hips level if you can and getting the twist from the spine. And one more. So lubricating all those joints in the spine. And this time bring the back of the hand down, just like we did before. And you can place your head on the mat if that's comfortable. And using this hand for a bit of support. If you want to increase the twist, again, keep the hips level, so try not to twist through the hips, but you can start to press through the hands to get a little bit more of a twist into the spine. There should be no pressure on the neck here. Should feel good. And then inhale, unwind, extend all the way up again. And bring that hand down, let's do the other side. So inhale in your own time, take your arm up. And reach through. So really reach through with those fingertips. And when you come on up, just bring the arm so that it's in line with the torso. We don't need to really force the arm back. So we don't want to be doing this with the arm. Keep it in line with the torso. But as you reach, really reach through with the fingertips. Feel that nice stretch through the upper back. And then let's hold this one. So thread it all the way through. Resting down on the arm, on the shoulder, and then maybe if you want, pressing into the other hand just to increase that stretch a little bit more into the upper back. Keeping the neck in line with the spine here, make sure there's nothing funky going on in the neck. No funky chickens. And then inhale, unwind, reach again through those fingertips. Oh gosh, that feels good. And then bring the hands back down to the mat. Okay, so a little bit of strengthening from here. So take your right arm forwards and keep everything else still. So a nice neutral spine here. Make sure your lower back's not dipping down. Yeah. So draw the lower abdominals in. Taking the right arm forwards and shoulders away from the ear, so we're not pinching it up here. Keep that engagement in the lower abdominals and take your left leg back. We're just going to hold here. So sometimes we do knee to nose from this position, but today we're just going to hold it. So press back through that heel of the lifted leg and feel the engagement in the glutes. And really think about drawing your toes down to the floor. So feel that connection from the base of your foot, the sole of your foot, all the way through the leg, through the glutes, through the torso, and reaching out through the fingertips, that diagonal line. Big breath in. And release. Bring the hand down, bring the knee down. Same thing other side. So find that long spine. Take the arm out first. Try and keep the hips level. So there's a bit of core engagement here. There's a little bit of core work as well. And then press through that heel. Pull the toes back towards your body. So you don't want the foot to be floppy here. Pull the toes back towards you. Reach through the fingertips. And see if you can feel the connection. So all the way from that heel in a diagonal line, right through the torso, through to the fingertips. Next in line, make sure you're not dropping it, lifting it here. It's quite hard to talk in this pose. And on your next exhale, bring the hand down, bring the knees down. Walk the knees back just a little bit and walk your hands forwards and wide. So your hands are as wide as the mat. We're coming into puppy pose. So the hips want to be stacked above the knees, so make sure they're not pressing back here or coming forward, so they're pretty much directly above the knees. Toes can be tucked or flat to the floor. And then taking the hands as wide as you can and start to drop the chest. So as wide as the mat is what we're after. So here you can bring whatever's comfortable to the mat. This will depend on your shoulder mobility, flexibility. So your chest might touch the mat, mine doesn't. Your chin, or if that's not comfortable, just pop your forehead down on the mat. But again, there should be no pressure in the neck here. And this should feel like a really good stretch through the armpit area into the chest. And really pressing those hips back. Again, feel the connection all the way down the torso. We should feel a little stretch through or maybe a big stretch through the sides of the body. And try and find a bit of softness here. So use your exhale to really soften into the pose. See if you can get that chest a little bit closer. And just let the upper back kind of melt into the chest. So there should be no tension in the upper back at all. And maybe as we hold this a little bit longer, you can start to sink the chest a little bit closer to the mat. That feels good. And then when you're ready, walk the hands a little bit closer together and start to walk them back towards your knees. Oh, that's a good one. So puppy pose is a brilliant pose. I don't do it enough, but it's really good for opening out the chest. If you've got any tightness, if you're at a desk all day, it's a really good one to do just to bring everything back to that neutral position. Okay, we're going to tuck these toes again because I know you love it. So toes are tucked, coming into toes pose. And knees are in line. Again, if this is uncomfortable, get yourself a blanket or a block or something and put them behind the knees, just to take a little bit of pressure off the knees. So toes are still tucked, but it just brings you up a little bit higher, and there's not quite as much pressure on the toes when your hips are that bit higher. Feels nice actually. Okay. So from here, we're going to take our eagle arms. So again, thinking about all these connections of fascia, how it, you need to Google fascia so you can have a look, see what it looks like. It does look like a spider's web, it goes all over the place. So if you can imagine, it's winding all the way around. And we're going to take the arms out into a big T without pinching the wall. And then exhale, give yourself a hug. Sitting nice and tall here, so your shoulders are stacked over your hips. And then feeling the back start to open up here already. From here, you're going to bring the backs of the arms towards each other. And that might be enough of a stretch, yeah? If you're okay there, you can start to wrap the hands so the palms come towards each other. And you can kind of wriggle into place if you need to. So then just relax the shoulders, make sure they're not hunched up. Take a couple of breaths here. You might be feeling some sensation in the feet. And then if you're comfortable, start to move the forearms away from your face. And you can even start to lift the elbows. And as you do that, you might feel a big stretch down the sides of the back, so where you find your lats, your latissimus dorsi muscles. So whatever version you're in, if you're here with the arms not linked, with the palms not linked, you'll still feel that big stretch down the side of the body. So not forcing it, we never want to force any of these stretches. And on an exhale, just slowly come on down, releasing the arms. Remember which one's on top, because we're going to switch. And then give the shoulders a little roll. Okay, take the arms out to that big T position, and then give yourself a hug, opposite arm on top, so it should be your left arm on top. So let the back round here, yeah? And then bring the backs of the arms together. And again, maybe that's enough, or maybe you want to join the palms. And just find your neutral spine again, make sure you've not done anything like grounding or anything like this. Your toes okay? You starting to feel them? If it's getting really tough, you can just release them anytime. Don't be in pain, don't be a hero. And then start to move the forearms away from your body. With the toes, so coming back to your feet, draw the heels towards each other, and you might feel a different sensation there. So my feet, my heels tend to splay out to the side. If you draw them towards each other, it just keeps that nice straight line, that anatomical position. And maybe lift the elbows here, breathing deeply. And again, notice, is it different to the other side? Is it more open, less open? Can you feel the stickiness in a different area? For me, this side, I feel it more on the upper back, on the side of my body. On the other side, I felt it lower down. So be curious. And then on an exhale, release those elbows back down, slowly unravel. And release the arm, yeah, give the shoulders a little roll out, definitely. You've earned a little shoulder roll. Okay, bring the hands down to the mat. Release the feet at last. Maybe give them a little shake, get some blood back into the feet. So really down into the mat, give them a little shake. And then we are going to tuck them one more time, but for downward facing dog. So tuck the toes, spread the fingers wide, their shoulder width apart, press through the hands, lift the hips all the way up to the sky. Keep the knees bent as much as you need to. And really lengthen through the spine here. So we're aiming for one long straight line from the hands through the head, the spine, all the way up to the hips. And then if you can keep that straight line, maybe start to lower the heels. You can lower them one at a time so you can pedal the legs out. If you're super flexible, you've got open hamstrings, then you can bring both heels down to the mat. But in the morning, it's quite nice just to have a little bend and even a little bounce here. So again, this fascia responds to movement. It likes these kind of bouncing dynamic movements. It helps stimulate the water in it. So a little bounce here will help do that in the hamstrings. So just a couple more breaths in your downward facing dog. And if that gets too much, at any time you can come down to your knees, come find a child's pose. Remember, this is your practice, so you do what feels good for you. Okay, so from your downward facing dog, take your right leg up towards the sky, but keep the hips level, so we don't want to just throw it up there. So keep the hips level, pressing firmly into the hands, and press the heel away. Remember that long line we made before? So press the heel away and toes are drawing back. And then from here, bring the knee towards the nose and place that foot in between your hands. Get it there, however you need to get it there. Drop that back knee, and we're just going to come forwards and backwards here. So again, bringing those toes all the way back. So it's all about the feet today, you might have noticed. Maybe lift that back knee as you come forwards, if that feels good. So we're sinking the hips back, stretching the hamstrings, the back of the body, and then coming forwards, stretching the hip flexors and the front of the body. And if you want to move with your breath, coming back here on the inhale, lifting the chest, and coming forwards on the exhale, reaching the chest forwards. So generally in yoga, we inhale as the chest rises and exhale as it falls. But in these two poses, we want to keep the spine long, keep the chest reaching forwards. And then the next time you come forward, just hold it here. And draw this front hip back. Make sure you're not sunk into it and it's not leaning out to the side. You can use your hand for support just to come up to a low lunge position here. So check you've got about a 90-degree angle in everything, so in your knees and your hips. Yeah, so we don't want to be sinking into it like this. Looks great, but actually this is more effective. So from here, lengthen down through the tailbone, and you should feel a stretch in the back hip, so in the psoas. And then your front heel, start to pull it towards your towards the back of the mat. So your front heel pulls towards the back of the mat, and that should increase that stretch a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Keep lengthening down through the tailbone. Your back toes can be tucked, or if that's not comfortable, you can put them flat. But keep drawing this front heel back towards you. And then, if you're okay with your balance, sweep the arms up overhead. If not, you can just keep the hands on the hips. So pick your level here. So taking the arms up overhead, keep lengthening down through the tailbone, so make sure you're not doing this. So tailbone down, keep pulling that heel back, and then reach through the fingertips. You can take the arms wider if that's more comfortable in the shoulders. Reach. If your shoulders are quite open, you can bring the hands together and release the index finger. Point that finger all the way up, keep lengthening down through the tailbone. Maybe come into a little bit of a back bend here, so we're reaching the chest up and melting the upper back into the chest. Just like we did in puppy pose. Big inhale. Oh, this feels lovely. And exhale, reach back up to centre, bring the hands down, all the way to the mat. And where should we go from here? Lift that back knee and come into a forward fold. Bring the feet together. So generous bend in the knees here, just let the upper body hang really heavy. And again, notice that connection all the way from the heels, up through the hamstrings, through the glutes, through the lower back, upper back, right down through the shoulders and the arms. So it's all connected. We tend to think of these muscles as individual, separate muscles. We're like, oh, I've got pain in my shoulder, or I've got pain in my calf. It's all related. So when we're doing our yoga poses, we're actually helping everything and each specific thing. So here, maybe pedal out the legs. I'll stop talking. Feet at hip distance. You can hold opposite elbows with your hands. But just let the head be heavy. And then maybe again, if you find somewhere that feels a little bit sticky, a little bit tight, you could bend one knee a little bit more deeply and sink into that side there. Using the breath to open up any spaces. And exploring the other side as well. So one side might be different to the other, probably will be. And you might feel the tightness in a different place. So again, be curious. Building awareness of the body. The more we listen to the body, the more we know we learn to know what it needs. It'll tell us what it needs and what it's capable of, and what we should and shouldn't do. And then coming back to centre, if you had one leg bent, releasing the arms here, and then slowly come up to a halfway lift. So you're just going to lengthen through the spine. If you've got a block or a chair or something handy, you can just pop your fingertips on those. So really lengthen through the spine here. So press really firmly into the mat. Press the hips back. Lift up through the quads so the hamstrings are protected with these quad muscles engaged. And reach the crown of the head forwards. So come up as high as you need to do that. In the morning, it's quite nice being up here. Big inhale. Keep lengthening. And then exhale, draw the belly button in as you exhale, come back to fold. And maybe you come down a little bit deeper. Maybe not, that's okay. So we're just going to stay here just for another couple of breaths. If you've got some blocks or books or something, you might want them. We're going to come up onto the toes. So if you can reach the floor, that's fine, you don't need the blocks. You can still bend the knees here. I'm just going to come up onto the balls of the feet, onto the toes. So a little balance challenge, but also, again, just getting into these muscles, this fascia in a slightly different way to normal. Keep the quads engaged. And lower the heels back down. Let's do that one more time. So inhale, come up onto the balls of the feet. Reaching through the inner arches, so really kind of lift the arches of your feet. And then exhale over the heels back down. On your next inhale, roll up one vertebrae at a time. So you're coming all the way up to stand. Ooh, good. And then stacking the shoulders above the hips. Reach tall through the crown of the head. Relax the shoulders down. And just take a couple of breaths here, just again to notice. Anywhere that feels like it's opened up, anywhere that feels like it's still holding a bit of tension. And then on your next inhale, sweep the arms up overhead and grab a hold of your right wrist so you can't see me. Still can't see me. So hold on to your right wrist with your left hand. So we're holding it here like this, yeah? So your little finger is facing forward. And then you're just going to pull up tall first of all, so grounding the feet down. So reach up tall, so you use the arm to really pull yourself up and then just lean in over to one side. So that might be enough. If you want to increase it, you can bend the knees a little bit and then just bump the hips in that same direction. Woo. So such a tiny movement, but for me that really increases the stretch through the waist, to the side of the waist. And then bring the hips back to centre if they were bumped to the side, and then come back to centre. Release the arms, give the shoulders a quick roll. And then on your next inhale, take the arms back overhead for the other side. So grabbing hold of the wrist, maybe brace that out of the way if you're wearing one. Reach tall first, so inhale to get that length. Lengthen down through the tailbone as well, so our spine's nice and long. And then exhale, keep pulling with that arm to support it, to make it a little bit passive here, so we can kind of relax into it. And then if you want to increase it, bend in the knees and bumping your hips to the same direction that your arms are leaning. Keep lengthening the tailbone. And then straighten out through the lower body, bring the arms up to centre, and the hands down to heart centre this time. And come back to your front of your mat if you've moved like me. Inhale, sweep the arms overhead. Exhale, come all the way down, bend the knees, bend the hips, back to a halfway, back to a fold, sorry. And then step all the way back to the downward facing dog. So pedal out the legs here. Maybe notice how this one feels compared to your first downward dog. Maybe your hamstrings feel a little bit more open. And keep lifting that tailbone up, so we're really getting length through the hamstrings here. Pressing the quads back and the shins back. So this time our left leg lifts, so rooting that right heel into the mat, lifting the left leg, just so the hips are level, so we don't want to open up here. Pressing back through the heel and drawing those toes down towards the mat. Big breath in. And then exhale, bring that knee all the way into your nose. Keep that knee coming in and in and in, and then step it between the hands. Dropping that back knee, and then find now a little lunge, hamstring stretch, half splits. So inhaling back to half splits, drawing those toes back. Exhaling forwards, but lengthening that chest, so really reaching through the sternum. Moving with your own breath and your own time here. And maybe you want to stay in one of these positions a little bit longer. So if you find something sticky here, maybe moving side to side, moving the foot side to side. So thinking about a massage, when you massage, you don't just go up and down the muscle. Go side to side, go around in circles. That's what this is doing here. So we've got the muscle stretched out, and we're kind of flossing it. Yeah. So find anything that feels good. And then make your way back to your lunge position. And then using your hand to help you bring your torso upright. And again, finding that 90-degree angle here. Good. You can keep your toes tucked or release them down to the mat. So wherever you are, I can't remember which one I did on the other side. If your balance is okay, take the arms up overhead. Keep the tailbone lengthened down there, remember. And then reach through the fingertips. Maybe interlink the hands. Release that index finger. Keep pulling the front heel back. So front heel back, tailbone lengthened. And then maybe reach tall and take a little back bend in the upper back. So remember the back of your chest is kind of sinking forwards. So you're letting the spine melt into the chest. And it doesn't have to be a deep back bend here. And then on your next exhale, release the hands all the way down to your mat. And then lift that back knee, come back to downward facing dog. We're just going to take a little mini vinyasa here, so the vinyasa variation. So you're taking an inhale and exhale. We're going to move breath to movement. So on your next inhale, lift onto the toes. And exhale, drop the knees, but keep the heels lifted. So the knees are hovering above the mat. And then inhale, shift forwards into plank. Draw the lower belly in. Exhale, lower down to your mat. So you can put your knees down to get there if you want to. Now inhale is locust. So bring the arms down to the sides of the body. And we're going to roll the shoulders back and down, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Exhale, release that. Bring the hands back under the shoulders. And inhale, come back to plank. So again, you can come back through your knees to get there. And exhale, downward facing dog. So we're going to do that a few times throughout the practice. So don't worry if you didn't get it first time. So lift that right leg again. Pressing that heel back so hips are level. Big inhale. And exhale, step that leg forwards. We're going to come up into high lunge this time, so crescent lunge. So find your balance here and check your knees stacked directly above your ankle. And just like we did when we were kneeling, start to draw the heel back, and that will help to engage the glutes and keep you in a strong position here. Hover the fingertips so you can feel that your legs have got all your weight, and then start to upright your torso. Good. Take a little bend in that back knee and lengthen down through the tailbone. And if you can keep that length, then you can start to press the heel back. Doesn't matter if that leg doesn't go straight. So we want length in the tailbone and we want that heel pressing back. You should feel Lots of activity in the back of that leg. And again, if you feel comfortable here with your balance, start to take the arms up overhead, just like we did in our low lunge. You can take the arms wide and stay upright, or you can interlink the fingers, release the index finger, reach up tall, and start to take a little mini back bend. Oh my goodness, that feels good in the hip flexors. Keep reaching through the fingertips. And then exhale, bring the hands down to heart center. So we're going to step forwards onto this front leg. You can bring your hands to your hips, you can keep them at heart center. We're going to come into a little warrior three to strengthen the spine here. So we're just going to tip forwards, keep this foot on the mat as long as you need to, and keeping a long straight spine. So from this position here, I should have, can't see because of the angle, a fairly straight line from my heel up to my tip of my head, the crown of my head. And then as you lift the heel, you start to lower the torso. So it all moves together, yeah, in one piece. So lower the torso as you lift the heel. Pressing back through the heel, just like we've been doing in all our other poses. Your toes face down to the mat. Really engaging that glute, reaching through the crown of the head. If you wobble, if you fall out of it, no drama. And then on an exhale, come on back to your lunge position. Did we manage it? Okay, no one's in a heap on the floor. Yay. Okay, sweep your arms up. Inhale here. And then exhale, bring the hands back down to the mat. Step back downward facing dog. Inhale here. We're going to take that little vinyasa again. So exhale. Inhale, come up onto the toes. Exhale, knees down to hover. Inhale, shift forwards to plank, draw the lower belly in, lengthen the tailbone. And then exhale, come all the way down. Maybe keep the knees up. Hands come to the side of the body. Inhale, lengthen through the crown of the head. Make sure the back of the neck is free. Exhale, lower back down. Hands come under the shoulders. Tuck the toes. Inhale, push up to plank. Keep the elbows in. You can drop your knees if you need to. And exhale back to downward facing dog. Whew. Inhale, lift the left leg up. Press back through that heel. So this long, strong leg is really important. You might start to see some of these yoga poses. Draw the knee in to the nose. Step it between the hands. Lengthen through the crown of the head. Press back through the back heel. And draw this front heel back towards you. Hover on the fingertips. And then on your next inhale, bring the torso upright. Make sure nothing's changed in the hips. So keep pulling that back heel, the front heel, back. What we're trying to do is get the hips square to the front of the mat. So bend that back knee, lengthen down through the tailbone. And then, keeping all that length, start to press the heel back. Good. And then maybe take the arms overhead. Maybe reaching through the fingertips, find that little back bend. Breathing deeply here. And it's normal if your breathing feels a little bit restricted here. But just see if you can steady it and calm it. And then releasing the hands down to the chest or to the waist. Start to tip. We'll take a tiny step forward first, and then start to tip from the hips, the torso forwards, at the same time the leg starts to lift. So our supporting leg is really, really strong, quads are engaged, drawing up through the lower abdominals, and pressing that heel back. So the lifted leg, heel is pushing back, glute is engaged, reaching through the crown of the head. Keep this hip in line so it doesn't lift. Push, push, push back through that heel. Maybe play with the hands at heart center. If you feel super confident, maybe take the arms forward into your full warrior three. And then bringing the hands back, heart center or hips. Take that foot back down to the mat to our lunge, crescent lunge position. Good, sweep the arms up, inhale. Exhale, bring the hands down to your mat. Step back to down dog. Take a breath here. Exhale. Inhale, lift the heels. Exhale, drop knees to hover. Inhale, shift to plank. Lengthen the tailbone. Exhale, elbows in, lower all the way down. Arms by the side, lengthen through the neck. Inhale into locust. Maybe lift the legs this time too, so squeeze the glutes, but keep that tailbone long. Exhale, lower back down. Hands under the shoulders, tuck the toes. Inhale, press up to the plank. And exhale, downward facing dog. Phew-wee. Okay, drop the knees to the mat, bring the big toes to touch. Take a child's pose, you've earned it. So maybe even this time bring the arms to the side of the body, so that the backs of the hands face the mat, and just relax here, let the shoulders open up. Whichever version of child's pose is more comfortable for you. And then walking your fingertips forward so your torso comes upright. And we're just going to stay on our shins just for a second. So you can either take thunderbolt pose, where you've got your heels directly underneath your hips, or you can take hero pose, where you bring your feet a little bit wider, rolling the calves out of the way, and sitting the hips back in between. So the heels are pressing into your hips, so we don't want to, again, don't just want to let them flop out to the side. We want a little bit of activity. You can do that by pressing your big toes into the mat. And then stack the shoulders over the hips and sit tall here. And again, if you want to sit on a block, this makes it much more comfortable on the knees, or even a couple of blocks, just to take some pressure off if you need to. And we're just going to take a couple of stretches for the shoulders here. So reach your right arm up, pinky finger faces forwards, and reach through that arm, and just bend in the elbow here. Take the other arm out, I'm going to face you actually. So take the other arm out to the side. So here. Thumb faces the floor, and then bring that arm behind. Maybe the fingertips touch, maybe not, especially if it's early when you're watching this. And then reach the elbows away from each other. So whether your hands are touching or not, reach the elbows in opposite directions to feel that engagement and the stretch through the triceps. I'm trying to keep the breath smooth here. And then release the arms. Change sides. So take that arm up, little finger faces forward, reach, bend at the elbow. Take the other arm out, thumb to the floor, and take that arm behind. And then reaching those elbows in opposite directions. So hero pose here for our lower body. Really good stretch for the knees, for the shins and the calves, and the front of the ankles. So you can probably start to feel it now. If you need to release at any time, then please do. And then exhale, release the arms, give the shoulders a little roll. And release the legs. So just take the legs out to the side, so your feet just come to the side here. I'm just going to take a little twist. So stack the spine nice and tall, shoulders above hips, and just turn towards your feet. So a very gentle twist here. Breathing into the belly. And then coming back to centre, swing those feet over to the other side. So yeah, so you might be sitting more on one hip than the other, that's fine. And again, lengthen through the spine and just gently twisting from the base of the spine, spiraling all the way up. And then coming back to centre. So just going to take a few seated poses before we finish. So let's do this, please. So take one leg out in front and bring the other into like a tree pose position. So your foot comes towards the inner thigh. You can even bring that foot right underneath you and sit on it. This is kind of the traditional way to do it. But if that's not comfortable, just bring it to the inner thigh as high as you can. And then, just like we've been doing, flex your toes. So dorsally flex your toes so that your toes are coming back towards your body. And turn your torso towards those toes. So we don't want to be here. We want to be here. Okay? And then sit really tall, and that might be enough. So your quads engaged, and you should feel a stretch through the whole back of this leg here. If that feels okay, you've got a little bit more space there, keep the spine straight, and you can start to walk the fingers forwards. And think about the chest moving towards the toes. Yeah? So we're not going down, we're going forwards, chest towards toes. So just move into wherever you find your space. So you might find, again, that here is okay. You might be able to go a little bit lower, but keep drawing those toes back, keep engaging the quads. And breathe. Keep that chin tucked in so the back of the neck is long. And then walk the fingertips back towards the hips. So this is Janu Sirsasana. We're going to take revolved Janu Sirsasana. So from here, turn to face your bent knee. Yeah, so the legs are exactly the same, but turn your torso now to face the bent knee. Keep this quad engaged. Imagine you got something really heavy pressing down on your leg, so it's keeping you glued to your mat. And then bring either your hands to your opposite knee. So this is the straight leg, straight arm. So it comes to the opposite knee. So you've got this little twist in the spine. And again, this might be enough. If you want to increase it, take the other arm up and reach through the side of the body. Turn the palm towards your straight leg. So you've got your bicep right next to your ear. Yep. And then reach through the side of the body. Remember when we were holding onto our wrist when we were stood up and we were reaching? Imagine someone's holding your wrist here and reaching, pulling you up, finding all that length through the side of the body. And what's your foot doing over there? Is it relaxed? Chilling out? Draw the toes back, keep pressing the quad down, keep reaching through the fingertips. Find length, find space, find any sticky spots. So you can have a little bit of movement side to side here. It would go easy. You're just kind of rocking side to side. And you might see pictures of people doing these poses where they just fold straight over and they're holding the toes and it looks amazing and impressive. But actually, being up here, you should be able to feel that this is much more effective, yeah? So really keeping that twist, getting all that length, breathing into the tight spots. And inhale, right yourself so you're upright, and bring that arm back down, and we'll take those on the other side. So switch legs, and that tree pose leg on the other side. Draw the toes back, sit nice and tall, so you're sitting on your sit bones here. Make sure you're not collapsing down. You can actually sit on a block, I should have said on the other side, sorry. But you can sit on a block if you find it difficult to sit upright. And then this helps you just find the sit bones here. It's quite nice. And then exactly the same, so facing your straight leg first of all, lengthen through the crown of the head. And then if that feels okay, start to walk forwards. If you're doing this, stay upright, yeah? So if by walking forwards you have to round the spine, it's much better to stay upright and keep the integrity of the spine and a nice stretch in the hamstrings. And just breathe there. Imagine you've got that sandbag pressing down on this quad. And like we were drawing our heel back in our lunge before, draw this leg back. So draw your straight leg back into the hip socket and feel the difference it makes when there's all that activity going on in the leg. And then walk your hands back towards the torso, turn towards your bent knee. Make sure you're still on your sit bones here. So if by turning and folding you've lost your sit bones, find them again. Sit nice and tall. Find the little twist. And bring the opposite hand onto that knee. If it's not comfortable on the knee, you can just place it on the floor. That's better. And then reaching the arm out to the side first. Find length through the side body. And then turning the palm towards the straight leg, so towards your head. And then reach, reach, reach. And then maybe, if you can keep all of this length, maybe start to tip. Watch the shoulders not hunching up. So we want to create space, release tension, not do the opposite. So if anything feels like it's creating tension, it's making you do this and shrivel up, then just back off until you can find that space again. Keeping the foot active. Find a little bit more space, so maybe the longer we're here, the more you feel you can open up. Keeping that chest turning towards the sky, towards your bent knee. And then inhale all the way up, bring the hand down, bring the soles of the feet together. And just a little inner thigh stretch here, Baddha. So again, sitting on a block here is nice, it just helps you can see, so from here my knees are quite lifted and even my lower back starts to round. It's still a bit early in the morning. But sitting on a block helps you just tilt the pelvis forward, get all that length through the spine, and then the thighs just melt out towards the side. Smelt, melt, smelt. Smelting. That is a word, isn't it? And just breathe in here, so we're not forcing it. When we try and force these stretches, we're actually creating tension and stopping the stretch from happening. So sometimes we just need to get out of our own way and just let the stretch happen. A bit of a metaphor for life. We just need to get out of our own way and just let it happen. Deep. Okay, release that. So use the hands to bring the knees together if you need to. If you want to block, remove your block. Bring the feet down onto the mat. And this is your teeny tiny bit of core. We're going to roll down, so squeeze the abdominals in. Reach through the fingertips. Lower down just an inch. Keep the chin tucked in, lower down a little bit more. Keep squeezing through the abdominals, squeeze the thighs together. A little bit more. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. A little bit more. Still squeezing. Make sure we're not doing this though. Keep squeezing the abdominals. Can you keep the shoulders off the mat? So when your lower back hits the mat, keep squeezing the abdominals even more. And feel each vertebrae lowering down. One at a time. Relax. Okay, drop the knees to one side. Little twist here. You can stack the legs here if you want to, if that feels nice. So bring in one foot on top of the bottom foot on top of the top knee. Lengthen down through the tailbone as well here. Maybe look in the opposite direction if that feels nice in the neck. Hands can be at T or in a cactus position. And then bringing the feet back, the knees back to centre and all the way over to the other side. Again, maybe stacking the ankle on top of the opposite knee. Or maybe just taking it easy. And then releasing that, bring the knees back to center. And just hug the knees in towards the chest. So a gentle hug here. So you can just hold onto the fingertips, hold onto your wrists. So lengthen the tailbone down, find all that length in the spine that we've created. And then taking happy baby from here. So try and keep length in the spine, and you can hold your shins if you need to do that. We see happy baby sometimes like this, and people have the bums right up in the air. But really, we want to get length in the spine. So we want the spine touching the mat. If you can hold the outsides of the feet or the big toes to do that, that's great. If not, that's great too. And then release the feet or whatever you're holding on to, and take the legs out one at a time onto your mat. Let the feet roll out to the side. Take up some space here. So we've made all this space in the body, so take up a bit of space on your mat. Take a big breath in. Fill all the way up from the belly, all the way up through the rib cage, into the chest, the upper chest. Even feel the air going into your throat. And then exhale it all out with a big sigh. And do that one more time if that felt good. So inhale. And relax. So just take a few moments just to let everything soften. So the fascia we talked about today, it likes movement to create moisture and suppleness, but it also likes relaxation so that it can soften. Feel your muscles in your face, your forehead, your cheeks, your jaw. Feel them soften. And notice the base of the skull, just above the neck, where we've got lots of attachment points. And we can hold some tension here. And see if you can soften the base of the skull. And then working your way down your body, your neck, shoulders, all around the ribs. Softening through the hips. And finally softening through the feet. We learned that's so important. And then start to bring some activity into the toes. Maybe spread them wide. Scrunch them up. Doing the same with the hands and the fingers. Wiggling the ankles from side to side, maybe rolling the wrists. And taking any other little movements. You can keep your eyes closed if you want to. Maybe taking a big stretch with the arms overhead, interlinking the fingers and pressing the palms away. Flexing the toes, pointing the toes. And then when you're ready, drawing the knees in, rolling onto one side. Take your time, keep your eyes closed as well here if you need to, if you want to. And then slowly coming all the way up to a seat. And then bringing the hands to heart center. Drop your forehead, so your area in between your eyebrows meets your index finger. And just feel the pressure of your finger on the area of your forehead. So this is where your third eye is. It's a really important gland as well in the body. And just take a moment here. Thanking yourself for looking after your body in this way today. And we'll say Namaste. A lot of the times when we're trying to get into a pose and we feel like tightness here, and we're like, oh, why does that feel tight? It might not be the muscle, it might be the fascia that's same as muscles. It gets little knots in it and it gets areas that are stiff and tight. And the way to release it was lots of ways. Massage is one way. It responds, it's made up of water as well, and it responds to pressure and it responds to movement. But quite often some of these areas, these little sticky areas, we don't move in a way that gets them. So we're going to try and move in ways that get them and try and release it all today.